Our story begins in a parking garage. A young man named Corey occupies it with his friends, Ashley and John. John tells him to turn off his phone so they can leave. Meanwhile, at Ashley's car, Corey asks why there are balloons in there. She complains about someone breaking in there, possibly stealing all her belongings. Then the trio sees a clown creepily standing a moderate distance away from them. He holds 3 black balloons, which communicates that he does not intend to give people sunshine and rainbows. John approaches the clown with an attitude, prompting Corey to tell him it's not a good idea to do that. But John does not listen, threatening the clown with violence. He keeps throwing insults at the man in the suit while Ashley urges them to get in the car. We learn that the clown has photos of himself on the news. People are scared of him. Supposedly, John isn't one of those people. Despite being bombarded by insults, the clown does nothing to John. He just continues to stand motionless. Once John gets in the car, they start riding away. As they do, the mysterious clown turns to watch them go. Soon John starts coughing. We see the clown is no longer there. His sole remnants are his black balloons. John isn't simply coughing, he's coughing blood. While the car isn't moving, hands get placed on the window. The group runs out of the car in fear. Since Corey drops his phone, we don't see what's going on. However, we hear Ashley scream before blood splatters on the car. After that, we watch the news. An unseen anchorman reports that an evil clown is roaming the streets of Green Bay. He has been skyrocketing with fame all week. The numerous social media comments concerning him are proof of that. He is known as Gags. Then the reporter, Heather Dupree, is shown. Many people are gathered behind her, hoping to see Gags. It was in that area where he was first spotted a mere week ago. Someone took pictures of him that quickly went viral. For a short time, we see a few people offering their opinions about the clown phenomenon. One lady says that the children are scared of Gags and she is scared too. Returning to Heather, she reports the police will not pursue the clown unless they have reason to believe he has broken the law. But his existence has made others take inspiration from him. We see an officer having to deal with one such imitator. Following this, we see 2 officers in a car. They are Chrissy and Jake. The man tells her that the original Gags photos are creepy. She wonders if he's still looking at them. Oddly enough, due to their creepiness, he can't resist looking at them. The next scene introduces us to a podcast personality named Terr0r. He is a strongly opinionated man who speaks his mind in such a way that it seems like he's unafraid to hurt a few people's feelings. Tonight's topic bothers him. He hates having to talk about it, yet it has to come out. He starts by saying that earlier this week, they had an unwanted visitor. Charles holds a photo of Gags to show who that visitor is. Based on the way he ridicules the clown, he's certainly not one of his fans. The vocal man talks about how Gags has put thought into doing what he does. That is one of the aspects that irritates him. Charles believes the clown intends to terrify people. He's getting excited doing it, but Charles has had enough. Afterward, we see people at a house party. It looks like Gags is standing outside on the street, looking into the house. A certain girl gets frightened by him. Then, an imitator at the party shows up and scares her some more. We then see Heather reporting again on the incident that happened in the parking garage, revealing that an official investigation by the police is underway. The lady is professional while the camera is recording her, but the moment it turns off, she becomes very different. Profanity spills out of her like water from a faucet. We see Ashley getting out of an ambulance. Turns out she survived the attack from Gags. Chrissy is also there with Jake and he tells her the case is very messy. Subsequently, we return to experience the expressive mind of Charles. He complains about people taking pictures of Gags. If it were him near the clown, he'd be doing something else. It's something he would rather not say on the podcast. Charles informs his listeners that by having his pictures taken, the clown is getting what he wants. They are also paving the way for copycats to come onto the scene. Moving along, Charles says he usually has a lot of respect for law enforcement. However, this week they have been a disappointment. Since the city is under attack by Gags, he hates that the police can't do anything about it. According to him, the clown is disturbing the peace, which is illegal. In the next scene, a policeman approaches a car that is stopped on the road. A man sits inside wearing a clown mask. The officer instructs him to exit the car. The man is not responsive, so the officer gets more demanding. When he goes back to his car to call for backup, the masked man chooses that time to exit his car. He gets yelled at to remain motionless. Switching back to Terr0r, he reads a comment from a listener. A lady writes that Gags is not just having fun, he's a sick person. It's no surprise that Charles agrees with her. He thinks Gags needs to have his head checked for doing what he does. Mr. Wright complains that they're the laughingstock of the country because of the clown. If his video gets shared 500 times, he will go out to personally bring Gags down. This is a man who does not joke around. He wants to be the antidote to the clown's poisonous presence. After that, we see from the point of view of a policewoman as she enters a trashed movie theater. Moving into the auditorium, she states that she's the police, meaning whoever is in there has to show themselves. It doesn't take long for her to receive the presentation she asked for. Gags sits in one of the many seats. Her camera starts distorting and she screams. Then, we see Charles going live again on camera. There are several guns mounted onto the wall behind him, more evidence of his forceful personality. Instead of getting 500 shares, he says they got 800. Therefore, it is confirmed that the man will hit the streets. He says he will do his best to be civil, but if Gags comes at him or decides to say something stupid, Charles is going to give him a dose of his automatic rifle. He proudly talks about how he has used it during the war in the Middle East. After the rifle, Charles shows a handgun he will also take. Interestingly, he gives his guns feminine names. The last gun he shows is a Magnum. According to him, one shot from it will make gags pop like one of his balloons. Following this, we see a lady whose occupation is being a clown. She cries because her work has been made difficult by gags. The reporter she speaks to is Heather. According to this lady, she loves being a clown. However, the lady now thinks the world either hates her or is scared of her. Back at the house party, a police car is outside. The boy in the clown suit, Chris, starts running away. A girl that runs too gets caught by Jake. Chrissy comes to them, informing her partner that the girl he caught is none other than her stepdaughter. Having met his partner's stepdaughter in such a way, Jake considers it awkward. Chrissy tells the girl she can't use her as a get-out-of-jail-free card. The girl is Sarah, whose stepmother commands her to go home. Then, Heather interviews a man named Ralph at his store. He claims to have seen gags. He shows her a framed photo of the clown. What's interesting is that the photo is from 1974. Ralph reveals the location where it was taken. As he talks, Heather stops him to say he's not talking about gags, but rather about another clown from decades past. This prompts Ralph to tell her to look at the photo he's holding. He emphasizes it's the same clown. After the interview, both Heather and the man are upset. Heather's bad mood stems from Ralph not actually witnessing gags. Ralph is also upset because he had to come to his store late at night to waste his time on a very short interview. In the process of walking away, Heather bumps into her competitive news network reporter, Rebecca Chambers. The lady asks Heather how her job is going regarding acquiring information about gags. She asks this in a patronizing way. Seeing how tired Heather is of her, it's clear that their rivalry has been going on for a long time. After that, Sarah comes back to her friends. She tells the one named Tyler to take her home. However, the boy's mind is elsewhere. He wants to have some fun with Chris impersonating gags. So Sarah decides to disobey her stepmother by joining her friends in the clown prank. The next scene shows a policeman entering a house where a lady informs him that her daughter, Erin, locked herself in the washroom. Turns out the girl was looking for gags with her friends. Upon returning home, Erin was in a trance. She looked like she wanted to hurt her mom. The officer tries opening the door, but it quickly shuts on him. Attempting it a second time, the girl closes it on him again. This causes the officer to call for backup. Then the door opens and Erin is covered in blood. The scene ends with the mom screaming. In their van, Heather gets a phone call from a man named Ron, which she rejects. Due to this, he calls her cameraman, Dale. Ron seems to be their boss, and Heather tells him they interviewed everyone he requested. He called her to inform her about Charles Wright. Ron considers him to be a loon. After telling Heather what he is doing tonight, the reporter becomes excited. This is exactly what they needed. Ron agrees with her, yet he is upset to say that Rebecca already had an interview with Charles. She gets upset in return, profanely saying that Ron wanted her to interview nobody. We find out she didn't even want to conduct news relating to gags in the first place. Ron is now removing her from this story. Despite not wanting it, she still gets disappointed that he took her off this case. Afterward, we see the interview Rebecca had with Mr. Wright. She starts by telling Charles he is taking this perhaps too seriously. The man is amazed to hear that, for all he's been hearing from each news station is information relating to gags. Therefore, his seriousness with the topic is a consequence of networks like the ones Rebecca works for. Once she says it could simply be a prank, the vocal man fires back that it does not change the fact that gags is generating. To Charles, the clown is it. Rebecca asks him why he thinks he will catch gags when no one else has. Not many people served in the Marines for 7 years. He answers. He knows gags has a plan and Charles intends to foil it. In the next scene, two girls are about to exit an elevator. Chris in his clown suit prevents them from doing that. Scared, they close the elevator doors to try a different floor. We see several pranks Chris pulls on people. The boy is having a lot of fun frightening people this easily. But soon he messes with the wrong man, causing him to flee with his friends. The man was ready to get physical with him. Of course, driving away in a car, Chris laughs in that safe zone. Then, we see Charles driving while talking. He says it doesn't matter who gags is. He is just a distraction from the real issues. Switching to the two officers, they arrive at a hospital. They enter the dark and quiet dining room. A chair that falls over grabs their attention. They enter another room and find a man with his back turned to them. Chrissy orders him to get down, yet he does not comply with her command. After he turns around, he reveals that he's wearing clown makeup. He starts walking toward them, which forces Jake to shoot him down. Chrissy checks the man prior to telling her partner he is deceased. As they have their backs turned to the supposed deceased man, he sits up. Upon seeing him still alive, they get scared. The man starts walking away, prompting them to follow him. Chrissy looks for him outside, where we observe gags spontaneously materializing. In the van, Heather asks Dale if he thinks Charles will shoot gags. The cameraman can't answer that with certainty. What he knows is that Charles is an entertainer, not a murderer. Heather thinks he would shoot gags, adding that it could be their huge story. It would count for worldwide news, so she wants them to find the podcast personality to see what he does. Heather believes if they film him threatening a clown with a gun, their careers will benefit greatly. The man does not even have to shoot Gags. She pleads that they find Charles, making Dale give in to the pressure. Then we see a carnival. Chris is there with his friends. The strange thing is that he's not in his clown costume. Tyler demands to know why this is the case. He wouldn't be allowed to enter as a clown, that's why. Returning to the officers, Chrissy gets off the phone with someone and tells Jake the hospitals had several patients tonight who had similar symptoms of what they observed with the man Jake shot. Jake wonders if it could be a virus. Chrissy tells him all those patients have vanished. After that, Charles walks with his cameraman, Wayne, while badmouthing the man for not listening to him, not appreciating it. Wayne tells him he's not one of his fans whom Charles can simply walk all over. With that, Charles comes to him to explain what he thinks the situation might be. He also reminds his cameraman that this is his show. At the carnival, Chris gets a black balloon, thinking it's an original from Gags. After a few seconds of holding it, the balloon suddenly pops. A powder that was inside covers Chris. Back to Charles. He is lucky enough to find Gags. He starts going live, recording the clown in the process for all his viewers to witness. The man assures 2,000 of them who are currently watching that his city's clown problem ends tonight. He's the one who is going to put the lid on it. It's funny because he talks about the clown problem like it's a rat problem. It's also hilarious how he considers himself as the one who is big enough to end it. So the former Marine takes action by confronting Gags. He starts talking to him, telling the clown to cut his act. But Gags just stands there quietly like he always does. Before long, Charles turns aggressive, yelling at the man with the black balloons to go home. He follows those words by pointing his gun at Gags. Then, out of nowhere, carnival music starts playing. It distracts Charles and Wayne, causing them to look around. Since they took their eyes off Gags for a moment, the clown is no longer there. Searching for him proves to be futile. He disappeared like he's something supernatural. Charles cannot make sense of this event. Being in the Marines for 7 years did not prepare him for this. Switching to the carnival, Tyler sees Chris vomiting in the restroom. This reaction might have been caused by the powder in the balloon. Soon, Tyler finds Charles's video where the man had his epic confrontation with Gags. The boy says the video is everywhere on the internet, so we segue into seeing the man in question. His cameraman tells him he is being called a coward who is all talk, no action. Charles defends himself by saying he wasn't sure the clown he confronted was truly Gags. He also didn't have a clear shot. He knows it could have been anyone in that costume, not necessarily Gags. However, this does not stop Wayne from giving him a hard time for not going through with what he planned. Due to Charles's mistake, he also looks bad. He tells Charles that the video of his blunder has been downloaded and posted on many sites. The tough man responds to this criticism by claiming he's going to fix the situation. Meanwhile, back to the trio, we see Chris is still coughing. Sarah wants to take him to a hospital, but Tyler objects. He soon sees Charles in the distance, thinking it would be funny if they pranked him. Back to the podcast duo. Wayne finds a balloon with a message directed to Charles. He thinks this means people are now messing with him. The angered Charles goes through an open fence. He keeps walking until he finds another balloon that tells the man he's getting warmer. His partner has lost a lot of faith in him. He is mainly following him with his camera to see Charles fail again. Near a building, a third balloon tells Mr. Wright that he's on fire. At that moment, he goes live. Charles tells his viewers he didn't shoot Gags because he is a nice guy. Yet Gags is not getting a strike 3. So Charles enters the building with Wayne. Its darkness prompts him to walk around with a glow stick. In the van, Heather exclaims that Charles has found Gags a second time. She tracks his location too. Walking inside that abandoned building, Charles finds graffiti on the wall. It states the forgotten are no laughing matter. Switching to the young trio, Chris tries putting on his costume on the ground. He keeps suffering. Sarah's mind orients around taking him to the hospital, but Tyler doesn't seem to care much for his friend. He wants to have fun. Sarah attempts to reason with the boy by reminding him that Charles is a man who is prepared to shoot a clown. This situation could easily go in a very wrong direction. Her argument does not work on Tyler, for he thinks the man is not serious about shooting. Then Sarah leaves the two of them to engage in their prank. She leaves while getting insulted by Tyler, whom she insults back. The next scene shows Heather about to enter the same building Charles entered. Dale asks her if it is a wise move. The lady tells the man to get on her level of bravery. She gets to a locked door and uses a piece of jewelry to open it. This impresses Dale. Charles hears something, which happens to be the carnival music they heard earlier. Tyler walks inside the building too. The problem is that he lost Chris. He sees a person in a clown painting in that darkness. This is enough to scare him to the point of running away. He has quit his night of fun. Afterward, someone runs in the direction of the podcast duo, yelling for help. Charles shoots the person down because they are wearing a clown suit. Chrissy is in the building too, hearing the gunshot. All the main players have congregated in the final area of this horror show. Wayne is amazed that Charles shot the clown he thinks is Gags. Charles, on the other hand, feels weird for doing it. Wayne tries to ease his partner by saying it should not feel that way because he already has experience executing in the Middle East. At that point, the former Marine reveals that he never took anyone's life. He was a mechanic during the war who never saw combat. Of course, Wayne delivers more insults to the man who lied to him for who knows how long. Then, perhaps out of fear or annoyance with Wayne, Charles starts pinning the murder of the clown onto him. When the police let their presence be known, Wayne is the first to flee. They get to the place where the shot clown lies and Charles isn't there anymore either. Chrissy checks the clown, reporting his deceased state. She removes the mask to reveal that it is Tyler. Charles shot the boy who intended to prank him, just as Sarah had predicted. Chrissy knows who Tyler is. She calls home to make sure Sarah is there. Soon she starts running elsewhere, leaving Jake alone. In the meantime, Charles encounters an individual with a bloody face. Shocked, the man asks him what happened. The guy speaks in a very strange voice, saying the show is about to begin. However, Charles is okay with the show starting without him. He turns around to run away from the creepy fellow. In a hurry, Chrissy ends up in a room with many black balloons. For a brief moment, she sees Gags there. Switching to the brave reporter along with her cautious cameraman, they arrive at a door that is boarded shut. That cautious nature of Dale's causes him to say they can't go past the door for that reason. But the lady who is 2 times smaller than him starts undoing the boards. She keeps bad-mouthing him for being a coward. Behind the boarded door could very well be Gags, who will give them the exclusive that Heather so desires. Hearing her say this, Dale puts down his camera and musters the courage to help her. Once they open the door, it leads them into a dark room that contains a carnival hut. It is a colorful, glowing piece of surrealism nestled in the darkness of an abandoned building. The duo is in disbelief at this odd discovery. Perhaps Heather is being a bit too brave by lifting the side of the hut to enter it before first listening to what might be inside. She observes several people sitting there, forming an arc. They turn around to eerily look at the duo that entered. Heather whispers to Dale that he should refrain from moving. As Chrissy keeps running, something seems to bring her down. At that time, Sarah answers her call. She tells her stepmother she just got home. She also says Chrissy got her in trouble with her dad. Unfortunately, the policewoman may no longer be living to hear those words. Then Charles runs away from Jake with the man that used to be his friend. They all enter the carnival hut. Jake orders everyone there to get on the floor. Charles instantly tells the officer to arrest Wayne, accusing the man of murdering the clown. He adds that Wayne is a rotten person. This leads to Wayne pointing a gun at Charles. This does not stop the man from continuing to insult his cameraman, calling him a worthless inbred. Wayne is pushed over the edge and shoots Charles. Consequently, Jake shoots Wayne as a response. Dale is forced to run away, so Heather picks up the camera to keep recording. The people who there don't even flinch. They all look at something they consider far more important than people being shot right behind them. That important thing turns out to be Gags. Not being on the same page with their fascination, Jake orders their idol to get on the ground. It was the mistake of his law enforcement career to say that. All the people stand to look at him. A black balloon pops over his head, releasing its powder on him. We don't see the end of his life, but we know it's coming. Outside, during Rebecca's news recording, Heather runs out of the building in fear. Seeing this, Rebecca wants her rival recorded. She runs into Gags, who lets go of his balloons and they float into the sky. After that, the clown holds a big balloon that seems like a caricature of Heather. He offers it to the lady and she takes it. Then, he walks away. Heather holds it, laughing, but suddenly, the balloon explodes with her. Rebecca acquires a remarkable footage, marking the end of this story.